Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm Luke Janesco.
And I'm Dylan Newell.
We are back with all your horror news blended and ready for your consumption on this Sunday morning with our caffeine here. Look, we got our little cups.
Officially got some merch going.
I got to get my fix of caffeine to deal with you, Dylan.
Of course, every when it's this early in the day, I'm a lot to handle. I understand.
As always, especially on Saturday nights.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. No, especially I can get a little rowdy and a little dirty.
Uh,
But
well, we're already taking a turn, and we're only a few seconds in.
nevertheless, um, I guess I wanted to kind of open this up before we get into our topics. A little bit of a sidebar. I had mentioned this to you because we had just posted our video where we got to take a look at the leaked Prey trailer. We've kind of been keeping tabs on this, as you'll say. It's kind of like our first real, like we're just watching this movie as it grows from just a little seedling up to its release.
We're keeping it into in our sights, like the little plasma caster.
There you go. We got our little three dots on it. But
We got to tie it in.
there was a little bit of extra footage released in like some, I guess you'd call them like bumpers or TV spots or something like that. But we did get a little bit of new footage. And I know I sent that clip over. Did you get a chance to look at it?
You know what? I totally forgot about it until you're just bringing it up right now. So no, I did
Okay.
not.
Yeah. So just to kind of sum that up, since I just want to make sure we're getting all the information we can about this movie out there, a lot of people were theorizing that there's going to be, just from looking at the footage, that the predator could possibly be female because you get a little bit of a longer shot of them holding the bear,
Yeah,
and there's apparently breastplates that you can see, but it's kind of up for debate right now because you have that,
could just be different
and it
armor.
could just be armor. Yeah, because I don't know. It just, he's very stocky in the
Yeah,
other images, other things that we've seen. So I just don't know. And everything you see about the female predators, from what I looked on online since our last video, they are a bit more slender.
hmm
At least different versions. There are varying different versions of them through different pieces of media. So, but we did get some extra footage on there. There's a lot of really cool stuff. One thing that I wanted to highlight in particular was that I was pretty much validated, I think, on my theory that the red that gets shot out
yeah,
is in fact those spears that we see, because you see the projectile go by them when they're running in the grass, and it looks like a silver spear. So it
okay,
could just be a totally different thing. He could be throwing the spear afterwards, but I think it's a little more clear to me, at least. You'll have to check out that clip
yeah. I'll
later
definitely
on,
look at
so
it.
we can chat about it off the show. But I did think it was important to mention it. I'd like everybody, if you have interest in Prey and you want to kind of get in on the conversation, I think everybody should check this out. If you go to their the Predator Twitter page, you can find those bumpers right there, and tell me what you guys think, because I definitely think there's some more interesting stuff in that. I think we're getting more to light. I think after this, I'm good. We only have to wait till August 5th, so that's like what, another month away.
Yeah,
So it's like, it's not even that long. So it's like I'm fine with this now. I'm ready to just wait and just see what happens on August 5th.
yeah, and I'm intrigued. They're definitely doing things different than they're trying to make this a unique film, which it already has that feeling just seeing what we have seen of this. I'm curious to see if the predator will be female. I just hope that they don't do it for the sake of doing it, and they're doing it part of and using it to the story's advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make it a reason, not just because we're sitting in a writer's room saying we haven't seen a female predator. So let's make the predator female, and then we go nowhere else with it. I would love for them to kind of tie it into something else if they can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what that would be, but I would hope that there is an actual reason for it, just because I would love to see it. I just would love to see them take the most advantage that they can of it, not just throw it in as something extra. It's like really use that as a storytelling device. Then make us care about it. Not just because hey,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah, no, I agree completely because I think like it would just be kind of a waste. I think like on our last video, when we were dissecting that trailer, we kept bringing up all this Predator lore about like Bad Bloods and things like that. If they're really taking that and they're going to tap into it, then great. Like I'm super happy to see that. But if it is just for the sake of we've never done it before, so the Predator's female, but it doesn't change anything else
Yeah,
about like its dynamic or its hunting style or anything, then it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Because I mean, obviously they would. I would suspect that they would probably at least function and maybe even think and act slightly different than their male counterparts.
yeah,
I mean, you see it with predators in the wild and stuff like that. Like with lions, the female lions do the primary hunting and everything like that. So like they're completely different to their lazy male counterparts. So it's like,
yeah.
if you're going with that take, I just want to see that expressed. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, use it to your advantage because I mean, there could be so much there to actually elaborate on. I just hope they do take advantage of it to make this the most unique film possible. And like you're saying, I think this is all we need right now. It's raising enough questions going into it. I think it'll get a general audience excited, especially for it to just be on Hulu. I think a lot of people will check it out with a lot of questions that have been raised thus far from just seeing a little bit of the trailer.
Awesome. And then the other piece of this that I wanted to touch on before we get into our main topics is it was released later, or like probably about midweek. I want to say on Wednesday, we found out
Yeah,
that from a statement from Dan Trachtenberg himself, the man, the director at all, and I believe he's the writer too, that this film was actually shot in two different languages. And that's shot in two different languages. That is not, we shot the movie and then we dubbed over everything. No, they legitimately would finish a scene in one language and shoot the same scene again in the other language. So you're going to have the option to watch this with the actors and everybody speaking Comanche with subtitles or in English, which I think is you know it's a good compromise, I would say. I'm gonna actually check out the subtitled version. I think that that's going to fit with the time period and the storyline a little bit better for me. I'm gonna start with that one, and then probably on subsequent rewatches, just because laziness, I'll probably throw on just the English version just to kind of see if maybe I missed anything or
yeah,
whatever. But I think that that's going to add so much, and with the ability to stream this instead of it going to theaters. I mean, why not? I guess the only thing I can think of is like that's you really got to be confident in your director to not only have to worry about getting coverage for the scene once, but having to do it again in a completely separate, like different language. So it's interesting. I don't think there's been any movie in history that's ever done this either. I tried looking into it. I don't think they've ever done this.
and it's very funny that uh a Predator film of all things is being treated with
Hmm.
this much gravitas. You know what I mean? Where it's like, and that's where going back to it being the Predator potentially being a female, if they go that route, you can see with the Comanche language here, it's like he's thought of everything here. It just wasn't a hey, let's give Dan Trachtenberg a Predator movie and see what he does with it. He had this all thought out. He really wants to treat it with care. He wants to make this one count, which makes me actually excited for this movie.
Yeah,
Um,
it is tough to tamper your expectations at this point, I would say.
yeah, because it's like everything that you're here. Like when we had talked about the Predator coming out, and before, I think it was before we had even gotten a trailer, I was already lukewarm on that because I was like, I don't know, this doesn't sound that as good as it did when it was first announced that we're getting a Predator movie and Shane Black is directing it. It little by little, it just sounded like it was getting worse and worse. Where this one, everything sounds great. It's like I can't even knock it for anything right now. So it's like I'm extremely excited for this, even though I don't want to be because I've been burned so many times.
Hmm.
But it's hard not to get excited for this.
I mean, we still get excited every time there's a new Halloween movie out there, especially with these David Gordon Green flicks. I do at least. And speaking of which, I think we're going to be getting the rumor with that is I guess another additional sidebar, a little bonus sidebar. Is that we're supposed to be getting the Halloween Ends trailer in front of the Black Phone at the end of the month.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we'll see about that because we're only a few months away from that supposedly releasing. So
Yeah.
they need to start wrapping up this ramping up their campaign at some point. So but yeah, I mean, as far as Predator goes, yeah, it's really cool to see this happening. I think the last little point I'll make on it is there is a lot of detractors saying that, oh, the fact that it's on streaming already tells you that it's shit. Normally, I'd agree with you, but I think the problem with this is that we're living in a post-COVID society where the movie theater is basically like you either sink or you swim right now. There is no middle ground anymore. So
Yeah.
it's like you gotta go. Like you gotta be Top Gun 2 or Doctor Strange or you're nothing. So it's one of those things where it's like I think with the franchise just taking a beating for the last few years between the AVP movies and their reception to the Predator and everything, it's like I think that it's this is a natural step for it. And plus, they want to get more streaming content out there. They want to put bigger IPs on there. We're getting an Alien show on Hulu, and that's a series. So it's one of those things where it's like, that in and of itself doesn't like it's weird. If you say movie, people think it's shit. You say series, people are like, oh, that could be good, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think normally I'd agree with that sentiment to some extent, but for this, I just think like the franchise is just in such a rut right now that it's like, why take the risk in putting it into the theaters when people will just be like, oh, all the Predator movies suck now, and then
Yeah.
not go see it, as to where they could just flip it on at home.
And that's where it's like the the movie's only as big as the audience that's out there for it right now. And they tried to garner some expectations with attaching Shane Black to a film, thinking, okay, this will get eyes on it, and it probably did to an extent. But
Because he was rolling off the nice guys with that.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just like it didn't take because it wasn't a good film.
Mm-hmm.
This one, we're playing you have to earn it, so it's like Trachtenberg's coming in from what, 10 Cloverfield Lane?
Yeah, and also working on The Boys.
Okay, and so it's like film-wise, 10 Cloverfield Lane is his last film, which, is a great film, but I don't know if the audience was there for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are like, man, it's okay. But I mean, I think it's a great film. You think it's a great
I
film.
love that movie. I
Um,
really love that
we know
movie.
he can tell a great contained story, but a lot of general audiences don't know that yet. So it's like, okay, give a good storyteller a movie like Predator and let him tell that contained story, which I think he's going to do here. So it's like I think the next film after this one is going to be a much bigger release because Prey is really going to get that audience back. We just have to show uh they have to prove their worth at this
They have
point.
to gain their trust back. They have to
Yeah,
gain our trust, as you
because they
say.
haven't shown out in theaters lately. So it's like, and I mean, Predator wasn't, it's not the Terminator. It's not any of those really big properties. And it was in the '80s, and then it was dormant for the '90s, and then popped up with the AVP franchise, which really didn't. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't really like in the spotlight. I don't feel so. Predator isn't that huge name anymore. It only had a short run in the sun, and now it's like, okay, let's get that audience back.
Hmm. No, I agree 100%. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I got to say about Prey. So, Luke, you want to take us into our first topic here?
Oh yeah, well, you're trying to steal my thunder by trying to hijack this show.
My
Uh,
bad. My bad.
now let's get into the format. Damn it! All right, let's get into it. Another original cast member has been slashed from the Scream film, and no, it wasn't Ghostface who decided her fate. Nev Campbell will reportedly not be returning for Scream 6 because the offer she received for the next film was even less intriguing than Scream 5, citing the offer that was presented to me did not equate to the value I've brought to the franchise. Will Campbell stay away from Woodsboro, or will they come to an agreement to see her back in future films? Dylan, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it is. I get it, but I think she's just playing hardball. After sitting with it for a few days, listening to a couple people's takes, listening to some people who kind of have a little bit more insight on the situation. It sounds to me like, from what I understand, that she has a either it's kind of up in the air here, where it's like it's going one of two ways, where it's like she either has a small role in this one leading into a bigger role into the third one that they're doing, or Scream 7, um or she has a predominant role, but they wanted to pay her about as much as they did for the last one. So I think that she definitely, being the face of this franchise, I mean, after Ghostface, she is the most recognizable character. Amongst Scream fans, she is our final girl. She's the one everybody always expects to come back. She's been in every single one of them. But it's just one of those things where I think that her team, they just haven't come to an agreement yet. They were supposed to start shooting the movie this week. That got pushed back, and I bet you anything, this is either them hyping it up for marketing sake, or it is going to be they just haven't reached a deal yet. I still think that Sidney Prescott's going to be in this in some capacity, but also we got to remember that the other Scream 5, say what you will about it, we weren't big fans, um, is a legacy sequel. And we've been getting a lot of those for the last like 5 years. And like with legacy sequels, the point is to pass the torch. And so you got to have a movie, I would say, if this is going to be a new trilogy, you have to have a movie that focuses on our new characters. So, either way, I'm going to see the movie. I was not impressed with Scream 5, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about this one. I go in hoping for the best, but at this point, I'm like, and everybody else loves this movie, apparently. They love Scream 5. So it's one of those things where it's like, are we just going to get more of that? I hope not. I hope we get a little bit more when it comes to the actual reveal and everything. But yeah, it's a little bit of a messy situation, is where I'm gonna leave it at, because it's like you can go one of two ways, but with it being a legacy trilogy, I really think that if at the end of the day, if she turned it down, they could probably move forward and they could just use the new cast and the people who did return and everything and just call it a day.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know. Looking at Scream 5 and seeing how minimal the original cast was in that, with the exception of one of them, which is not even going to be returning anyway.
Which is
Um,
bullshit.
yeah, worst decision ever. But um, so it's like I don't know exactly if they were beefing up her role in Scream 6, and she was unhappy about the offer that she received, or she felt like she's the mainstay in this franchise. So regardless if she's in it a lot or not, she still deserves to be compensated in a big fashion for it. But I keep seeing people saying how excited they are for the new cast, and how they've actually established characters in Scream 5. But it's like, so uh, you know I guess at that point, does the audience even need Nev Campbell to return? Are they going to see it regardless of that? For me, I prefer my Scream franchise with Nev Campbell, but I didn't really enjoy Scream 5 that much. So it's like I would prefer the original cast to return over anything, because I don't really necessarily believe that they established great characters in Scream 5. Um, but I don't know necessarily if, for a general audience, they're looking for Nev Campbell to return, or it's more so just about Ghostface slashing people, and more so the whodunit aspect of it, not necessarily those previous characters from the 90s and early 2000s films, because I don't know if that is resonating with someone who's 19 going to see a Scream movie nowadays.
Yeah, Mike from We Watched a Movie actually had a really good take on this that I liked, where he was basically just upset with the fandom. He released kind of a rant video talking about how, like, people are just being so like, oh, we're gonna boycott this movie because she's not in it and everything like that. Which, again, I think that's silly. I mean, like it's at the end of the day, it's like if they couldn't reach a deal, they couldn't reach a deal. It's like you shouldn't put that on these filmmakers and everything because, like, I want Scream 6 to succeed. I want them to win me back. It's the same thing that I always say with David Gordon Green's Halloween movies. I want this franchise to win me back. So I'm always in their corner, but I'm not going to be just sitting here being like, "Oh, I'm going to be honest about how I feel about the previous work."
Yeah.
But his take was that he has a feeling that maybe her role was a cameo. Maybe it's a cameo and she just wants normal pay because she's Sidney Prescott, which, again, she's been in 6 of these movies or 5 of these movies. And it's like, yeah, I think, in a way, I would say, yeah, you are going to have to pay Nev Campbell. Like, that's really where I'm going to land on it. But his take was he thinks that maybe this is the first one where we see Ghostface win. Maybe not everybody dies, but most people die and we never find out who the killer is. And then they have to bring her back for 7. So maybe
Yeah.
she shows up in a smaller capacity towards the end. I don't know. I just thought that would be an interesting way to go about it.
And
But no, go
honestly,
ahead.
that was going to be one of my points to bring up here was, even let hypothetically, let's say this is out there that she doesn't want to come back for 6. Maybe she couldn't fit it into her schedule. Maybe they just didn't have anything really for her for 6. But it is a smart play to put this out in the headlines to say Nev Campbell's not going to be back for Scream 6, so don't expect to see her in Scream 6. Because if she comes back in 7, that makes 7 that much more of a bigger film already out of the gate, because they're like the return of Nev Campbell, the return of, the epic encounter of Ghostface versus Sidney Prescott, which, I don't think we're going to see her fate off camera in a sense where Nev Campbell never comes back to the Scream franchise. I just don't see that happening. I feel like whether she's in Scream 6 or she's in Scream 7, I think we're going to have another encounter of Ghostface versus Sidney Prescott at some point. I
Yeah,
just don't think this is the end of that.
I would agree. I think like it's definitely we're gonna either way. This is gonna shake out like they're either gonna work. The way I see it is they're gonna strike a deal. She's gonna be in the movie. She's gonna cameo, whatever. Um, but I do really feel that this is just marketing. I feel like
Yeah.
this is marketing and they're playing the game. It's this classic game they always play in Hollywood, where it's like you're playing hardball, you want a bigger paycheck, this is what you do. Because at the end of the day, this is what she does. This is maybe her team's plan to have these ravenous fans get on her side and put some pressure on the studio to actually fork over the cash to get her into it. But yeah, again, from how you're saying it, it could be building almost like an artificial kind of hype
Yeah.
where it's like, she's not in 6, we don't want to build up that expectation, of course, so that way people aren't disappointed, but you can capitalize huge on that for 7. Like you could put her all over the poster, everything, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh my god, she's back. I can't believe it," because we are creatures of habit and this wouldn't be the first time something like that has happened.
And that's where, going back to the original, Sidney Prescott was the main character. Gail Weathers was just kind of there as a side character. She became more of an emphasis later on, but still she was more so a side character, even though she was part of the original cast. Same with Dewey. I very much think Scream 5 should have been a Dewey film, but that didn't turn out the way that it did. And so it's like now you create this. Okay, so Nev Campbell, we put on ice for a while. We make this a Gale Weathers type of film, not necessarily as the mainstay, but she's like the oracle in a sense, where she's the one that's dealt so much. So we kind of refer to her, and then you kill off Gale, and that leaves Sydney in 7. All her friends were gone, and now it's time for her to face Ghostface, and like you're saying with that theory where this could be the first one that Ghostface wins, I think that would be a smart play.
It'd be
Kind of,
different.
yeah, play the long game here instead of wrapping it up at the end of one of these films. Let it play a little bit longer.
Mm.
and see what we get in that Scream 7. So I think that would be a smart play, especially if we're going to end up bringing Sidney Prescott back eventually. I think that would be an intriguing concept. It would be such a different feel because audiences are not used to that. They've never done it. And it would be really unique to kind of go that route with it and tell a longer story than just, hey, we're gonna do beginning, middle, and end here in an hour 45, and you're gonna know all the ins and outs before the credits roll. To kind of keep that cliffhanger, I think would be really smart.
Yeah, and I think for me, like the kind of last little bit I'll leave it on, for me on this one is just that I would like to see Sydney come back. Do I need her? No. Do I have faith that this is going to be the Scream movie for me? No, because I didn't care for the last one, and I think that the last one was a great success. They liked it. They have a formula. They know what people want. But I'm still happy for people. If this is really what you want to see out of this franchise, it's great. But I'm going to make a request. Matthew Lillard, Stu Macher, bring him back. That's all I want. You do that, and you'll at least get a few more points in my book.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of Matthew Lillard in any sense here. I was never a big fan of the idea of bringing back um, Stu, just because I was like, nah, he died. But,
And
I do see. Go on.
fuck it. You know what I mean? Like at this point, fuck it. Like
Balls to the
this
wall.
woman has been attacked and roped into serial killers, multiple members of her family, people surrounding her family 5 times. Why the fuck can't Stu come back? Especially if we're gonna have Skeet Ulrich come back as a ghost.
Well, I can't defend Scream 5, so that one I'm out on. But the other ones are at least a little bit based in some sort of reality. But
Right.
I'm not gonna fight it. If Stu shows up, Stu shows up, and I'm gonna love every minute of Matthew Lillard on that big screen because
Mm,
I don't think he gets his due. So hey, I'll sign that petition if you send it over to me.
absolutely. I agree.
All right, let's hit our next topic here. Speaking of David Arquette and Scream, um, those eight-legged freaks will be crawling back into theaters. And no, we aren't talking about the David Arquette classic. An Arachnophobia remake has been announced with Christopher Landon set to both write and direct. Landon has directed horror comedies like Freaky and Happy Death Day. In addition, James Wan will be producing the project. Is a remake something we didn't know we needed, or will Landon leave audiences begging for a lethal dose of venom after watching this film? I was really surprised initially when an Arachnophobia remake was announced. I was like, it's a little different. I didn't know we were gonna go this route. I watched it as a kid all the time, but it was never like me sitting down watching this Jeff Daniels classic movie, credits rolling, and me sitting there to myself pondering, we need a remake in 2022. So it really did catch me off guard.
I mean, like at this point, we're just going back to the well and we're just pulling whatever we can out to, just get a headline and to get people excited. Um, am I worried about this movie? Of course, I'm excited. I mean, obviously, I'm a creature feature fanatic, as I've stated many times on our show. So it's like, yes, will I go see a movie about spiders killing people? Yes, but it's also one of those things where it's like, if we're gonna do this, if this is a remake, I'd almost like this to be like a requel, which
Yeah,
is ironic, talking about Scream 5 just a few moments ago. Um, but like I feel like this is appropriate because I want to see characters like I think off air we had talked about it where you said something about you want to see John Goodman's character come back.
yes,
And I'd love to see that. I'd love to have Jeff Daniels, if he's not a main role, at least, show up in some capacity. And I'd like to see where they take it from there. As a true remake, though, I don't know. Like, I mean, they're gonna probably go the CGI route with the spiders, which unless you're eight-legged freaks or like I don't want to see it.
yeah,
Because I think like it's just not gonna they're not gonna be as realistic. They're not gonna look as good as the real spiders they used for the original film. And I just don't know. I just feel like to me, and like Eight-Legged Freaks came out, or sorry, Arachnophobia came out in 1990, I believe, correct?
Yes.
And I just think when I watch that movie, I specifically think to the first time I watched it. This is my little nostalgia story for it. Is I was going down with my family to Universal Studios, first and only time I had ever been there, and I watched it with my cousins because we had a DVD player and a couple of screens that would set up in the back of the van. And I was just so enthralled by it. And I just remember the magic of that movie, just the small town feel. Jeff Daniels comes in as the new doctor and everything. He's getting a bunch of shit from everybody. And, it's just, it really encapsulates that same energy to me on a smaller level, I'll say, because I feel like if I compare these two, you might, you might not get with me here, but it almost feels like that Silver Bullet kind of vibe to
Mm,
me with that same small town, everything that's going on. And I just think like the movie itself is just so well done. I mean, yes, it's not like a staple for everybody, but at least I look back on that movie fondly. It is something where it's like when I do watch it, I get that kind of warm feeling to me of just like, this really is an encapsulation of that moment and of that time period. And I just don't think that this is going to hit. I really don't. And nothing against it's Christopher Landon.
yeah.
Um Nothing against him. I mean, I know he's got fans out there for Happy Death Day and Freaky. I haven't seen any of those movies. They've never really just like they don't look like the kind of horror I want to see. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I do need to watch it before I pass judgment here, but I just don't from seeing what I know and what I have seen of those movies and what I know from Arachnophobia, I just don't know if this is a great pairing. I just don't know. I just this makes me apprehensive.
And I'm on board with your take there. I just think the original Arachnophobia is very much a description of a moment in time film where you can't recapture the magic that that film had. You're just not gonna be able to do it. Like you're talking about, as soon as they mentioned it, my what went to my head was, what are the spiders gonna look like? Because they're not gonna use real spiders. There's just no way. Um,
And
and
if
so
they
I was,
do, then I'll eat my words and I will give this movie a couple bumps in my book. I just want to put
but
that out there.
my dilemma there is, I would they ever let them actually use real spider? I'm assuming, I haven't done my research, but I'm assuming probably a lot of spiders died on the set of Arachnophobia.
Probably. Yeah, but like
Um,
I can't say for certain, but I mean like it's
you know,
there's a chance.
I wouldn't surprise me. That was 1990. It's like they probably weren't taking too many precautions, and things weren't as widely under the microscope as they are today.
I want to say though, and I got to shout this out to Losers Club because I've been listening to them ravenously at work. They get me through my days. They took a lot of care for the roaches in that final skit or segment in Creep Show. They had a
Oh,
roach wrangler on there, and that was in the 80s. So I'm like, if they're that worried about roaches, maybe the spiders were taken care of a little bit better. I can only
yeah.
hope.
I
But,
mean,
you know,
again, I didn't do any research. I can only assume with a lot of things, probably maybe not enough care. We'll dive into that. Maybe we can find something and then kind of confirm. But I just feel like they probably want to go the route of a billion different, bringing on spiders, and then with the potential of them being killed during filming, we probably want to just get rid of that whole dilemma and run with the CGI spiders. And for some reason, I think Stranger Things, the new season has CGI, like I think Black Widows, maybe spiders, whatever. And I just kept going back to those, and I was like, if that's what the spiders are going to end up looking like in Arachnophobia, um, I'm not going to be able to enjoy this movie.
and I can forgive Stranger Things because the spiders are not the focus.
Yeah,
They're just icing or sprinkles at that point with the whole thing that's going on in that storyline,
yeah.
which I guess I should check in. Sidebar here. I have 2 episodes left. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I started a new job this week, so forgive me. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch The Boys. I have a lot of catching up to do this weekend. So give me today after we film this, and I will finish it.
Damn it, Dylan. You had one job.
I know. I'm sorry.
Watching that Prey trailer. Damn it.
Over and over again. But yeah, I agree with you. If that's the level we're gonna get, I don't want it. I just don't do it.
And
I just don't like it.
I've seen Happy Death Day, and I've seen some of Freaky. I haven't. I think maybe a half hour of it. I started at a weird time when I never actually sat down and fully committed to it. But Freaky seemed to be pretty heavy into the comedy portion for to a certain extent. Happy Death Day has some comedy in it, comedy that doesn't really resonate with me in my horror. So the only thing that I could think of a lot for this remake of Arachnophobia is that they're going to lean into a lot of comedy. And I know that I guess Arachnophobia is defined as a horror comedy, but I don't see a
It's
lot of. I mean,
it's on
there's
that
some.
cusp, but I
um,
I wouldn't sit there and say, see, like that's precisely why I have apprehension when it comes to his filmography, because I know the level and the type of humor just from the clips, the reviews, and the trailers that I've seen. So from his other works,
Yeah,
and it does not align with the same style of comedy as the original Arachnophobia.
yep,
Like it's comedic, but in the subtlest of ways. Like it's never outright like we're literally poking fun at things. Like it's comedic in the sense that John Goodman plays his character. He's a very funny character, but he's dead ass serious in their world. Like he is
yeah.
who he is, and that's how they all the actors portray it. But it's not. I just feel like it would be too tongue in cheek,
And
just from knowing what it is. Like they would be trying way too hard.
and that's where it's like we don't get like an over the top John Goodman in that in terms of a comedic sense. Um, watch yourself, Dylan.
No, I
So
was like,
it's
no,
like I feel like just some of John Goodman's one-liners are honestly one of the reasons why it's defined as a horror comedy because that movie's not overly comical in any sense. You're kind of dealing with a real creepy aspect there. So it's like it surprised me that it was defined as a horror comedy, but I really feel like once the remake drops, it's really going to be defined as a comedy horror. You know, where it's like they're really just going to amp up the comedy in this because um, it's kind of like in hindsight looking at Child's Play where it's like who's going to be scared of a possessed doll, but it's like if you play it right, you can make it work, but I feel like they're not going to fully commit to the horror and Arachnophobia, and it's just going to come out more comical than anything else, and that I'm not going to get on board with. So I'm not really looking forward to the remake, in a sense.
I guess we
Um,
both can say that. Yeah, it's. I really think like this kind of was very therapeutic for me because since this got announced, I've just been chewing on it and just really couldn't make up my mind. But now that we've had the time to sit here and kind of go back and forth with it, I'm not looking forward to it. Will I see it? Probably, but
I don't think I'm going to see it in a theater. I'm probably going to wait for like a Blu-ray release, or if it's streaming, and which
I
wouldn't surprise me, like a fire starter.
I might see it in theaters. I would probably see this in theaters just because, like I said, I'm a slut for my creature features.
Yeah,
Unless the trailers are absolutely god awful, like I will go see this in theaters.
yeah. I mean, yeah, if the trailers look amazing, then yeah, I'll go see it in theaters. But like as we sit here right now, you'd you'd have to give me something really good looking in order for me to get to the theater to see this because it just
Hmm.
the headline of Arachnophobia Remake is not doing it for me. They're gonna really have
No,
to pull something out here,
I
which
agree
I
100%.
which I'm apprehensive about. But time will tell. I don't think there's a release date on that. So,
Mm-mm,
well,
not
maybe
yet.
I think a year or two. So, I mean, we'll see what they pull out.
100%.
But we can move on to a director that seems to knock most things out of the park. Mike Flanagan is back with another Netflix property. The new trailer for The Midnight Club dropped, which is based on the young adult novels by Christopher Pike. Scream Queen Heather Langenkamp is attached to have a reoccurring role in a series which already has sparked some interest. After the perfection that is Midnight Mass, Flanagan has some big shoes to fill. Will this be another TV show that shapes younger horror fans like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps?
I'm intrigued. I think, I've been very open about my affinity and love for Midnight Mass. I thought that that's currently, uh, I would say that's Mike Flanagan's opus right now, in my opinion. I think that that
Yeah.
is his best work. He has really created something special and transformative and just gave me literally like some of the best watching experience I had all of 2021. So I'm interested. I'm of course the next thing that he puts out, I really want to see it. And it doesn't intimidate me that there's such a fast turnaround here because a lot of his stuff is a fast turnaround with Netflix. Like they keep that man in business. Like they keep him moving. Um, I don't know anything about the original source material, and I would have looked up some stuff for this show, but I, with it being who it is behind the camera, I want to stay as in the dark as possible. But I can tell you just on my surface thoughts from watching the trailer and everything. I think you said it best, and I don't mean to be stepping on your toes if you wanted to say this out loud, but very much I get those Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of vibes, maybe a little more mature. But I am curious to see what they do with this story. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about it, like I said, but I want to. I'm in. I want to know what's going on. I want to know if this is going to be something like, is this going to be something a little lighter than we're used to seeing with Flanagan, or is this going to be just as dark, just as deep as like as far as the emotions and the philosophical ideas go, or is this going to be a little more surface level? So if that's going to be my only piece of me that's a little worried, is that I may not, and I need to resign myself to this, I may not hit those same levels that I got with Midnight Mass with this.
Yeah. Do you know like the basic concept of the Midnight Club?
Nope. You can tell me the basic concept, but
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
So it's basically from what I've read. I haven't read any of the books or anything like that. I don't know what years the Midnight Club had come out. It wasn't really in my vision growing up. Haven't really heard about it until this. I am interested in going back and actually looking at some of the books, just some of the source material to see uh, what some of the stuff may be based off of. But basically, the concept is it's like 7 or 8 kids in it that are terminally ill, and they're in a hospice, and they make a pact that the first one to pass on must reach out from the other side to contact the rest of them. So as they try to make contact, weird things start happening. So I don't know if this is a from from the trailer. I got like, again, Are You Afraid of the Dark vibes where they're going to be telling scary stories and stuff like that. I don't know necessarily if that's the route they're going, or this is like a big story in itself where it's like straight from episode 1 to episode 12, whatever. They're really, I don't know how many there are, but it's like a big concept of a story, because I was just assuming we were going to kind of get like, you know, an hour long anthology from beginning to end here, but I don't know if it's going to be that way actually. I do think this might be a little lighter than Midnight Mass. I have a rocky relationship with Mike Flanagan, to be honest. I wasn't a big fan of Doctor Sleep and Hill House. I watched Hill House. I wasn't overly impressed with Hill House. The other one that's attached to Hill House, I forgot what it's called. I got through
Haunting
like,
of Bly Manor.
there we go. I got through like 4 episodes, and then I kind of called it quits on that. I do like Hush. Um, Midnight Mass is my masterpiece. I absolutely adore it. So it's like, he's coming off something that I think is just perfection. But I guess I'm not going into the Midnight Club expecting Midnight Mass. I think Midnight
Yeah.
Mass is just its own animal, and think this will be something a little bit lighter. Not necessarily. I mean, knowing Mike Flanagan, this isn't going to be all. Um, I don't think it's going to be in the element of like a Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Not that light. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely gonna
Um,
respect it.
but
But
I think this will be a little bit lighter than Midnight Mass, just because that watching that, it's just so heavy. Um, but I think I'm very intrigued. I have high hopes for this. I do like that they did cast Heather Langenkamp in here to kind of get some legacy horror intertwined in here. So I'm very intrigued just by the trailer, even though it didn't show much. I think this was uh, the perfect trailer in a sense to kind of get you excited for something, but not really give you the concept too much of what's going on. You just kind of get a vibe of what to expect, but you don't really know what to expect.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I didn't get much from it at all. Um, but I just, knowing who it is and just what it was, I was intrigued to check out the trailer at least and give me that. But I may not look any more into it. I may not even watch any more of the trailers. And I am building my own hype here. I'm building myself up. Like you said, I can't go into it expecting Midnight Mass, just knowing that this is based off others' source material and
Yeah,
what this is going to be. But um, I will say that we do differ a bit on a few of his projects, and I think Doctor Sleep being our main point of contention there because I actually really enjoy that movie.
I know you do.
Um, did you ever check out the director's cut?
I did.
Oh, really? Did nothing for you?
Isn't it just like, I mean, it's a little bit of extra stuff, but it's not like a change in the story.
It's like a whole half hour of extra stuff.
Yeah, but it doesn't really change any of the dynamics, does
Oh,
it?
all right, we will get to that one. That's definitely going to be something we'll have to
Let me
talk
tell
because
you something that they did that I cannot get on board with.
oh
Uh,
no, oh
not
no.
not to take a full on sidebar here, but um, Miss Massey, right? One of my favorites. In The Shining, absolutely terrifying. When he goes into the room and she's the young, beautiful woman, then turns into the old lady. They ruined that by showing her so much in Doctor Sleep that I was not even afraid of her image by the end of it.
Okay. I mean, like, they do show her quite a bit. I'll give you that. I don't think that ruins the entire movie for me, though. I think that
Oh,
that movie still
no,
has a
no.
lot to offer.
I'm not saying that that solely alone ruined that movie for me. I'm not saying it's an incompetent movie. I'm just saying um I don't have the love for it that a lot of people do. I see a lot of
Mhm.
problems with that movie.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I uh
Even
I definitely know that's going to be one we're going to have to talk about, just like with It Chapter 1 and a couple other flicks. I know that we got to hash some things out about one of these
Listen,
days
it
on the
chapter
show.
1 is the selling point of the kids, right? Everyone
Mhm.
always says kids are great. Kids are great. Yeah, they are. Why didn't chapter 2 work?
Oh, fuck.
Fucking
It
kids
Chapter
weren't
2
in it.
sucks. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. I can't wait to do those movies because that's like I said, we're gonna differ on that first one a little bit in some spots, and then the second one we're just gonna have a field day with.
Yeah.
Just gonna dissect the shit out of that movie because what a disappointment.
Yeah.
Seriously. I'll leave it at that. But Mike Flanagan's Midnight Club, sign me up. I'm ready to go. Let's take a look at it.
I'm on
I'll at
board.
least show up and check it out. Will it beat Midnight Mass? Probably not. It's probably going to be, if anything, a long time before he does that.
Yeah.
Outdoes himself again. But
That might just be his finest work of all time. I
we
mean,
shall see.
he's got a long career ahead of him, but I mean, Midnight Mass is absolute perfection to me. So
Yes.
it's on a pedestal.
And I got to give you that one because I hadn't even watched it until like I had seen the stuff on you know, Netflix. I'd seen the ads and stuff, but like I just never dove into it. And
Yeah.
then I think I brought it up to you one day and you were just like, "Oh my god, that show is amazing. Like you got to check it out." And then
Yeah.
that's when I went down there.
I think and then did we talk about it? We talked about it on one of these things because I kind of said that you were like talking about that first episode and you weren't I felt like you weren't sold on it and I was like totally offended.
No, it was definitely I believe it was that second episode when the thing happens because I don't want to
Okay.
spoil it for anybody because that was definitely one of those things where I was just like, "Ooh, that was tough. That was a rough one."
Yeah.
But I got through it and it was well worth it and I love it and I've watched it like 3 times all the way through now, so it's like so
I've
good.
only watched it once all the way through. I've been waiting to dedicate because I like once I started, I'm gonna want to watch it straight through. It's
Mhm.
like I'm not gonna be able to do anything else. So I've been trying to dedicate like just a full week to Midnight Mass. It hasn't happened yet, but it'll be happening soon. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Once we find an appropriate time, we will be breaking that down. And I would say that's probably going to be a few different shows
Yeah.
as
Well,
far as like how we get
we
through
do
it.
have a potential segment here coming out here soon where Midnight Mass would fit right into that format. So,
It would be perfect. I do think that would
um,
be a good one.
absolutely, without question. Sign me up. All right, let's move into our last topic here on the Sunday Scaries. Horror fans, get ready to lose yet another weekend, but not to Stranger Things this time. Supermassive Games released the choice based survival horror game The Quarry on Friday, June 10th. The plot for the game is described as 9 young camp counselors must survive a night at Hackett's Quarry in upstate New York while being hunted by blood drenched locals and something far more sinister. With Until Dawn a notch on Supermassive Games' belt, do they have another hit on their hands for horror fans? Dylan, you said you were kind of staying away from a lot of this stuff, weren't you? So you didn't really see too much of the gameplay.
I have stayed away from the gameplay specifically just because this is my wife's bread and butter as far as video games go. Like for a little backstory, um, they do not like a lot of video games, but Minecraft, Pokemon, things like that. Really, just like kind of a mixed bag of things, or that I can get them to play. The one guarantee I have are these supermassive story based kind of choose your own adventure games. Absolutely adores them. We have a ball with them. Between Until Dawn and which is the first game I got for my PS4 back in the day. So like that was a blast. That was a night I'll never forget. I had a bunch of friends, her and I and a bunch of our friends over at my house. My dad was out of town. If he watches our shows too, so he'll hear this. But yeah, he was out of town. We were having a get together, and we all sat down and played it. And we played, I think, like most all of it the first night, and then we finished it the second night. And it was just an experience. So like her and I, we literally we wait for these games to come out. We do this, and then the Dark Pictures games, I believe, are also them, or at least some of the team behind them. They're kind of like an anthology series. They release one every October. Uh,
Yeah.
and like one was about a cursed ship, another one was about witches, and it's just they're real interesting. But this is their first like we're back, we're committing a good portion of our team to doing this, and I'm excited because what I like about these games, and like I guess a little bit of spoilers for Until Dawn, is like with that game, you can never tell if this is like a slasher or a creature feature or
All
a
of the above.
paranormal. They really do a good job of leading you along and blending so many genres
Yeah.
that you never know really where it's going to go until it hits. And then usually when it hits, it's still very satisfying. But I mean, we're talking about camp counselors. We got David Arquette, Lance Hendrickson in this bad boy. Like, this is definitely, and I got to say, another thing about them is that they know how to cast these things. I
Yes.
love that they bring in actual actors and they do all this. It's like they're literally like playable movies. And
Yeah.
so like I'm extremely excited to hop into this. Like I said, I started a new job this week, so I'm gonna wait until I get a little bit of my cash flow back up here to pick this one up. But I promise you, when I do pick this up, I will revisit this on maybe this or whenever it just comes up naturally. I'll talk about it for sure because this is definitely going to be something I'm going to play.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, these games are very cinematic. Like you have like The Last of Us, which is being made into a TV series, I think for HBO. But
Yep.
Until Dawn is another one that I feel is just so cinematic to watch, where you could easily take that source material and move it into either a TV series or a full length feature film, and it would transfer perfectly, because just the way the storytelling is. The Quarry, I did watch. I think the first 10 minutes. I think IGN had like the first actually like 30 minutes of gameplay that was released a few months ago, and it's really intriguing stuff. I don't play many video games. This one is something I'm very intrigued to actually crack open and play. You know me. I get video games with the best intentions, and then they sit there, and then 3 months later they're old and worth nothing, and then I go to decide to trade them in. But the Quarry is one I think I'm going to go out of my way to pick up. I have a PS5. I've had it since February and have not taken it out of the box yet. So
Gives you
this
an
will
excuse.
Yep, this will be probably the first game that I actually put into that system and play it, and I'm very excited. I didn't know too much about this, because I don't have a big interest in video games. I didn't know about this until a few days ago, to be honest, and it has sold me probably within the first 10 minutes of research for this. So it's like this is right up my alley. I'm very excited to see what lays ahead. I'm very intrigued in terms of what is out in those woods, because they do a good job of hiding exactly what either that beast or whatever is out there. And it has you asking a lot of questions. So it's like this feels like some sort of Friday the 13th 80s slasher film, and I'm 100% on board with it because I think this is going to be it's going to be a hit.
Oh yeah, and I mean you have other actors like Lynn Shay is in this, and I mean she's just popped up in so many different things over the years. Everything from A Nightmare on Elm Street to the Insidious franchise. I mean, like it's just they really know their audience and they know who they're pivoting towards, and I think that's like some of the best stuff when it comes to Supermassive and just how they approach this stuff. And like I said, this is just it's a pastime for me and my wife. We absolutely love sitting down and playing through these games. And I actually before we sat down to do this, I was talking to her about it and saying, we'll have to pick it up here pretty soon and just dedicate a whole Sunday after we record and just play through it and try to get through it all in one sitting. They're not exceptionally long games. They do have multiple playthroughs. I think if I want to get critical about one thing, um, although they're fun and they're great, uh, replaying them to get different endings and different scenarios, the first act can always be a bit of a drag because there isn't a lot of deviation because it does a lot of setting up character and everything.
Yeah,
At least I can say that from Until Dawn. We haven't attempted to go back on Man of Medan or oh god, whatever the second one of those. And then there's a third one. We haven't played that just yet because we're saving that for Halloween. But now that we have this, I mean, we might have to bump this around a little bit. But I will be picking this up. I think that they're very unique and they're very cool concepts, and I do like them. Um, the thing that I guess is a little tough for me is, and I think these games get more of a pass because they're horror based, and I am such a sucker for the horror genre. Because like I played things like Detroit Become Human,
yeah,
and it's a very similar style of game. Um, I got through maybe about the first couple hours and then I was just kind of like I'm over this. Like the gameplay is just kind of what it is. It's a lot of walking and then just hitting buttons. But with this it's like the story really is going to like draw me in. And again, with this cast, I mean like I'm so excited to see David Arquette in this. Like really at the end of the day, I want to see this as a movie, but I will experience what they're giving me. So,
yeah. And again, this is another one where the premise seems pretty basic. Like I
mhm.
said, 80s slasher kind of nothing really new. I maybe the new parts of the story lie with whatever's out in those woods. But again, this is something that can be transferred into a different medium. You know what I mean? Where this can start as a game and then just like The Last of Us easily become something more cinematic because I think as soon as you read that line about 9 young camp counselors must survive a night in Hackett's Quarry, I think most horror fans, their ears perk up. They're like, I'm already on board with this.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's like, um, even horror fans that don't play video games would probably want to check this out just because these games are so cinematic. It's another form of storytelling. So it's like there's going to be a market. There's already a built-in market for this. So it's like Why not get as much mileage out of this game as you can if you can transfer it into a TV show, or Shutter would easily pick something like this up, like the TV version of the Quarry, so it's like there's an outlet for this stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see either this or Until Dawn kind of come out into a different medium years down the line, because there's clearly a market for it. So I'm very excited for this. Like you said, the cast, as soon as I heard David Arquette was in this, I was like, sign me up. I need to see him in a sheriff in some TV show. So it's like I can't get enough of him. Lance Hendrickson, I mean, come on. It's perfect casting. Everyone in there is going to just be so much fun to watch. So I'm definitely going to check it out. I mean, like, for me, the biggest horror game I got to play growing up was Zombies Ate My Neighbors. So, like, they see something so cinematic like this with a bunch of storytelling that can kind of give you that suspense. I mean, I'm there. I don't play video games, but I will make time out of my day to play the Quarry.
Yep. Or you could at least have a Zoe play it for you, and you make the decisions.
There
So
we go.
that's how you do it. Okay. So this kind of moves us into my segment of the show. And to be honest, I did search high and low. There wasn't much to really discuss as far as Blu-ray and streaming this week for anything related horror wise. I think, like, I can kind of take this back to, we had the announcement of, the Midnight Club. And I know that Netflix, they had some kind of an event this week because they were releasing all kinds of shows and things like that coming up. And I believe there were a couple in there that were horror based, but I didn't really dive too deep into them because I want to save this segment for more recent stuff that's coming out. Like last week, we had a plethora of recent announcements from Scream Factory. There really wasn't anything this week. We just got really lucky with the fact that the Chucky box set was coming out, so that gave us a lot of
Yeah.
great talking points.
I did want to bring up one thing though.
Okay.
On a couple of podcasts ago on Splattercast, we talked about Abominable. I was a company that released the Abominable Blu-ray. Do you know? MPD or something like that. I apologize for getting the initials wrong, but anyway, whatever company released Abominable is releasing Disturbing Behavior. I think maybe in October. And I'm very, very excited about that because Disturbing Behavior is not easy to come by on Blu-ray. It used to be, and I had waited for so long to pull the trigger on it. Then I think it, was like, oh, it's out of print, so now we're going to charge an arm and a leg for it. So I've been catching it streaming every so often, but now it's actually it's getting a new release on Blu-ray coming up. So I am very excited about that because it's one that, yeah, it's not a great film, but again, there was so much potential there. I feel like a studio never fully committed to what that could have been. So I always recommend people checking it out just for the concept alone.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely want to see it. It's one I've never seen, but I would be very curious to see what's up with it. But I did find a couple of things that I could mention. Just like, and I'm just pulling up my little list here on my phone, but a couple of things I did just want to mention that did drop this week. We had a genre flick that I'm very interested to see. I have not gotten a chance to see it, but Everything Everywhere All at Once is in I believe it's to rent. You can rent it right now on streaming.
Yeah.
So that's something I definitely say check it out if you're a genre fan. Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day Part 2 or whatever you want to call that. They were recently released on 4K. Something I left out last week just because we had so many other things to talk about. It wasn't there, but I figured, I'd put it on here since we talked about arachnophobia and everything. And the last thing that I was just going to highlight, just to have something in the section here, was that we are getting the original Friday the 13th also put on 4K Blu-ray coming out September, I believe, September 13th.
So do you think that every Friday the 13th needs a 4K release?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because
I'm
I have
in
this.
that camp as well.
I have this box set. I'm good with
Yeah.
that. The original, I understand it started everything. Part 6 would be cool. Just because I'm a bias on that one. I love that. And I'd say give us the first 4 films.
Okay.
If you're gonna do 4Ks, the first 4 films, then you can cut it off. I'd like 6 just because I'm a fan and it's my favorite one of the franchise, but you don't have to go there if you do not need to. I do not need 5. I do not need I 7 I know is like is there for people, and I think with the makeup effects it'd be cool. The only stipulation I want on 7 is if we're gonna get a part 7 on 4K, I want them to try to salvage as much of those original kills as they could.
Yeah.
That would really sell me on it. I'd pay an arm and a leg for that just to see it. I don't want 8, 9, 10. Freddy versus Jason, sure, if you want to. And I just think the remake is, although I have a soft spot for it and I do like it a little more, I think we both kind of like it a little bit more than most. I
Yeah.
just don't think that one's necessarily needs a 4K. But I think those first 4, those first 4 originals would be excellent to see upscaled.
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely need. I'd love to see 1 and 2, and then 4 just because I love 4, and then might as well just throw 3 in there, um, even though it's got all those shoddy 3D effects. But in the shots. But maybe we need Jason Takes Manhattan in 4K so we can really see how just wet and drenched
Nope.
Jason Voorhees is.
Nope.
I think we do. He
Nope.
looks like he's from beyond. He's
Nope.
one of those Stuart Gordon characters.
I'm good. I don't
Listen,
want to
Bill.
see him having sex with anybody. That's
Um,
icky.
he's
he
playing
looks like
neoprene.
he looks like Godzilla in like some of those older ones, where he's got like the smushed face, like dead
Oh
ass. Like,
yeah,
that's what he looks like, and it always just gets me. Like I always crack up whenever I see that because it's like literally he has no eyes. He's all gray. It's just it's such a mess.
I want to see him punch the Julius's head off in 4K. I need that.
I'm sure you do. I guess I could also mention here too, just doing a little background research here, a movie that I actually have never seen, but I'd really like to see. Event Horizon is coming out on 4K as well, and that's going to be in August.
I've seen some of that. I've never fully committed to it.
It's got
I
Sam
do need
Neill.
to. Yeah, I mean, I think it's got a great cast in there all around.
Fishburne too,
I
I
just
believe.
I just haven't fully committed to it. I know a lot of people talk about it. I've always turned it on and then gotten distracted by it. Like I've always turned it on during things I'm doing, so I've never like put my full attention to it. So that is one I have to sit down and watch. I just don't know if the effects are gonna hold up. Like I feel like I'm gonna watch that in 4K and be like, your CGI showing. You know what I mean? Like I just don't know if it's really gonna
Hey,
resonate. So I don't know if that one's gonna be a good choice in 4K or not.
if Godzilla 98 can come out and look pretty good in some shots, I think they can figure it out. I think they can do it. Okay, because that movie had some rough CGI, but I'd be a liar if I didn't admit watching that in 4K. There were a couple of shots that they were definitely able to touch up and improve that looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So those are my two
Well,
cents into it.
once it comes out on 4K, we will work it into Splattercast and we will talk about either how good or how terrible it looks in
I mean,
4K.
we'll get there. We will. And I guess the last little thing I'll throw out there, just a recommendation from me. Um, as far as I know, I brought up everything, everywhere, all at once. Uh, Not horror, but fantastic movie from a director who has tapped into some horror roots. The Northman has come out on Blu-ray and 4K this week.
It's also
Definitely,
streaming on
yes,
Peacock.
yep. I would say if you're gonna check something out, go check that out. Again, not horror, but it is Robert Eggers. He brought us The Witch and The Lighthouse. He's got a horror background, and I saw this at an advanced screening. My wife and I went and saw it a few months ago, before it came out, and it was just what an experience. Seriously, like just a beautiful freaking movie. Really worth your time. Probably my favorite of the year so far.
Oh, big words, Dylan. Big words.
Hmm. I mean,
I'll
Robert
have to
Eggers
check
just
it out.
hits. He hits for me, and I think it's one of the dumbest things in the world that there was a quote going around saying he's like, "I'm gonna have to." pivot how I do my stuff because I'm just not financially viable. I'm like, dude, fuck off. Keep making movies how you want to make them. They're brilliant. Like he's 3 for 3 right now.
It's Dylan will show up for them. If no one else
Cool.
does, Dylan will be front and center.
I will. And my wife too. She loves this stuff. So
Well, I mean, who
we'll
doesn't
be
want
there.
to see uh Willem Dafoe nude?
Oh yeah. No, always. Always.
No,
Always with the Willem Dafoe dong.
I still have to check that one out. I haven't yet. I meant to, but I don't know. It's been rough for me to get to the theater. I don't know. I'm so out of sync after COVID that it's not even like a fear of COVID. I just haven't been to the theater, so it's like I still have to get back in that rhythm of going every so often.
It's like a drug to me. I just need a hit every 2 weeks or so. So I usually make it out there, especially this time of year. I saw Jurassic World this weekend. Loved it. I don't care what anybody else says. I think you're all being nitpicky. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Good time.
Dylan does not give bad reviews.
I just talked a whole bunch of shit about Scream 5 and all this other stuff. And I'm allowed to like Jurassic World, okay? If you're allowed to have your thoughts and opinions on Doctor Sleep, let me like this movie, damn it, okay? I want my
Listen,
dinosaurs.
my opinions only exist to diminish your opinions, and that's
Clearly. And that's why we do these shows. That's why we're
exactly.
here.
I want Dylan's confidence to be at an all-time low as soon as we sign off. And so far,
Normally.
it's been effective.
It's been great. Yeah, I always text him. I'm like, I'm mad depressed right now, dude. I don't think I want to do this anymore.
And then
And
I
he says,
say,
shut up, bitch, and edit.
you're being dramatic. I'm blocking you for 2 days. We will talk then.
Figured. Well, I guess that about brings us to the end of our show here. Unless you have anything else you wanted to bring up real quick.
No, I think I pretty much got it all covered. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's it for the big horror news. Obviously,
Mhm.
we'll be back next week with a bunch more.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but we'll see how it goes. Yep. So that's your dose of horror news to start your week. But until then, we will be back. What? Every Sunday, the Sunday Scaries.
We'll be back every Sunday. We're also going to be having another episode coming up. Not this weekend, but next weekend we'll have another episode of Splattercast posted on Monday morning, as always. And you can check us out on Twitter. Follow us on there if you want to get a hold of us, start a conversation, anything like that. You can also comment down below and follow us on any of our other platforms, being Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Music, being our primary ones. So check us out on anything that's convenient for you. And again, please give us the feedback. We always want to hear from you guys. If there's anything we can improve, anything that we could do better on, we want to hear it. Or if you just in general want to keep the conversation going, like we will talk and we will talk horror movies all day long. So please hit us up on either of those. Yeah. And then I guess that about takes us out of here. So till then, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco. And until next week, stay scared.